Hello everyone. I'm Steve Ward. I work with Candidate.ID. I've recruited for more than half my life, which is kind of scary. And Candidate.ID is the thing I've been waiting for about 10 or 12 years because I'm involved with digital recruitment and want to make it more efficient for recruiters and better for the candidate in the way that we communicate with them. So the biggest challenge within recruitment these days, or one of the biggest ones, is building talent pipelines. And so we're there to solve that. And it starts with this. The world of social media has meant that we have sourced and advertised and social media connected so much that our ITS is starting to feel a little bit like this right now. And even though GDPR gave us a little bit of a prod to do something productive with our ATS, the reality is there's a lot of information in there. Create talent pools, they said. And we created talent pools, and we kept sourcing, and we kept building information to the point at which we're utterly drowning in candidate data that we're not doing a heck of a lot with and probably can't find in any case. So the scenario that we've had is that it's so hard to create talent pipelines from our enormous pools of talent because there's so many of them to try and work through to be able to identify where on earth our next hire is going to come from the data that we already have. And so what do? We go straight back out to market again and advertise again for a role that we've already advertised 15 times in the last 2 years. So what's a talent pipeline? To differentiate it from a talent pool, it's when you can recognize within the funnel, we said we talk funnels, within the funnel, it's to recognize the difference between when candidates are here, here, and here, which is obviously, that's and here, by the way, that didn't come out very well in the text. So who did you call first? So let's look at it from a simple recruitment perspective. So if we're trying to identify the difference between different candidates within our candidate pools, who would you call first if you're the recruiter? Would you call John, who opened an email when you sent a campaign out to him? Or would you call Jane if we knew that Jane had opened an email, clicked a link, went to the landing page on your website, spent some time there, etc., and went to job pages? Well, we'd call Jane first. And if we knew that information, we would be a lot more efficient in our recruiter time. How do we know this? Because we looked really, really closely at the behaviors and the data behind what candidates do, not just in the internet generally, but what they do on our properties, on our digital assets. What we're trying to establish is, depending on the kind of things they look on our site, whether it be careers pages, whether it be general information, whether it be content, it's understanding, it's turning that funnel into the sort of heat map idea that says we recognize if they're looking at industry stuff, general stuff, skill stuff, they're quite cool, but obviously once they start to look at career stuff, they're clearly quite warm. How do companies use this information? How does talent acquisition use this? Well, one of our clients sent us this beautiful bit of imagery that presents where candidates come in at the top, where it's ultimately going to end up. Irregular hires go there. Talent pipelining comes in when you've got multiple candidate types and you want to build a nurture system for multiple candidates. And how do we do that? By recognizing that when people are at different stages of the attraction funnel, we give them different kind of content. We personalize it. We don't just send them jobs. Understand where marketing data, brand and automation come in, and make sure recruiters use our expensive human time with the moment when a candidate actually wants to talk to a human, actually wants to talk to the organization about your organization, rather than throwing jobs to them at the period of time in which they don't, if we knew when they don't. This is done through automation, so the whole journey of this thing is set up on the system by running programs that tell us what we will do next once we send a campaign out to them, and personalizing the journey based on their individual behaviors, by tracking the behaviors by name. So we're not just looking at numbers, we're looking at individuals on our site by name who exist on our system, and we can work out which ones are hot, which ones are not, which ones are looking at jobs, and which ones aren't. And we can performance metric it to the nth degree. And the cool bit for recruitment people like us is when we can identify in real time on the system when candidates are looking at our content and when they were looking at it. And this is an example of how one is justified by the amount of engagement score points, the highly engaged candidates listed at the top. Or we can look at it, I love looking at it by most recent time, so we can see candidate data in real time when they are looking at your job page. And if we knew when they were looking at our job page and what jobs they were looking at, and we have the data to identify the journey they took to get to our specific job pages and our specific pages on our site, then it gives us an idea, one, what they're interested in. Therefore, if they didn't apply, what are we going to do? How are we going to speak to them next? But also, it gives us an idea of what kind of content they really, really like, which is good for our ROI from marketing content as well. So our clients say it tells us it reduces their time to shortlist by 50% because of the data that means they don't need to go out to the market first. That's useful. Individual candidate experience is obviously improving the candidate experience because we're dealing with people on a one-by-one kind of basis. Examples of how we've seen this work is one example I think that was presented in one of these events actually previously. Somebody ran their existing data through Candidate.ID, ran a nurture campaign for 4 weeks, started to identify the people who are highly engaged with job content and careers content on the site, and were able to hire 15 people that they didn't even know were looking for work inside 8 weeks. That was cool. Specsavers, I think it might also have presented here, telling the Candidate.ID story, went through a similar journey and hired 19 of the first campaign. Optometrists, not very easy people to find. Actually, in the end, they hired 56 more in 2018 than they were able to do in 2017 because they were identifying candidate data that they previously weren't aware of, that were looking for work. GDPR compliance comes into it as well because we're providing engagement data on our candidates, so we can demonstrate the legitimate interest in the actions that they're doing. Somebody said to us recently, you're not selling us a piece of software, you're educating us on a better way of working. And that's really what it's about. It's about how do you take, if we understand candidate data better, if we recognize where they are in the funnel and where they're actually going to be interested, and when they're not interested in work, then we create efficiency within our recruitment functions and we create ROI from our digital activities as a consequence. So thank you very much. That's me. You're welcome to talk to us any time of the day.